Ever felt that pull towards a Mediterranean escape? You know, somewhere that feels like Italy, but different, with its own unique spirit.
That's definitely Sardinia.
Yeah, it's like you need to just pause the usual mainland Italy thoughts for a bit. Because today, we're really going deep, planning out a sort of virtual trip, an immersive Sardinian experience.
Exactly. We've looked at a whole load of travel experiences, facts, tips, and we've sort of pulled it all together into what we think is a really inspiring 25-day itinerary, especially if it's your first time, you know?
Right.
The idea is to spark that I want to go feeling, but also give you the actual details you need to, well, make it happen.
Precisely. Because, I mean, let's be honest, just scrolling endlessly online, it can get overwhelming, can't it? More confusing than helpful sometimes.
Absolutely.
So think of this as like your curated guide. We're highlighting the absolute must-sees, those little hidden gems, and of course, the food. We have to talk about the amazing Sardinian food.
Oh, absolutely. And Sardinia, it just has this incredible depth. Just to give you a little taste, the island has over 7,000 prehistoric sites.
7,000. Wow.
Yeah, imagine the history. And then there's a coastline, nearly 1,850 kilometers of it. Beaches, cliffs, coves, just stunningly varied.
Incredible.
And here's something really fascinating about this. Sardinia has this unusually high number of people living past 100. Centenarians.
The blue zone. Right?
Exactly. It hints at this unique rhythm of life, the diet, maybe something else entirely. We'll definitely touch on that.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So this 25-day journey, where do we begin? Let's lay it out.
Right. So we're starting in the south. Days 1 to 4 are all about Cagliari, the capital.
Okay, Cagliari. Fly in there.
Yep, Cagliari Airport. And from there, you dive straight into the city. The Castello district is just, well, essential.
What's it like?
Picture this. Narrow cobbled streets, winding upwards. Ancient walls, old defenses. And then suddenly, these amazing viewpoints pop out.
Sounds fantastic.
Then you've got the other historic areas, Stampace, Marina, Villanova. Each has its own feel, its own slice of Cagliari life. Really worth just wandering.
And it's not all just city exploring, is it? I heard something about beaches nearby.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's the great thing. You can actually hop on a local bus and pretty easily get to some really nice beaches just outside the city. A great way to mix it up.
Perfect. So history and beach time. But you mentioned history. What about specific sites?
Well, for history buffs, a day trip to Nora is a must. Seriously.
Nora, tell me more.
It's this incredible archaeological site. You get layers upon layers of history. It started as Phoenician, then Carthaginian, then Roman, even Byzantine remains.
Yeah.
All in one spot.
Wow, that's quite a timeline.
It really is. And there's even an app you can use, which is pretty handy. It guides you around, points out the Roman theater, the thermal baths, right by the term of mare.
Thermal baths by the sea, imagine.
Exactly. And beautiful mosaics like in the Atrio Trestastilo. It just makes all that ancient history feel so, well, real. You can almost picture it.
Okay, Nora sounds unmissable. What else down south? After Nora, maybe?
Well, after soaking up all that history, you could head over to the Bay of Chia, known for absolutely stunning beaches.
Chia, got it.
And then maybe push a bit further east to the Capo Carbonara area near Villasimius. There's a beach there called Spiaggia di Porto Giunco.
Porto Giunco?
Yeah, I think classic Sardinia. Turquoise water, fine sand, and there's this old watchtower on the headland.
Oh, cool. Can you climb it?
You can. It's a short hike up, and the views from the Torre di Porto Giunco are just spectacular. Totally worth it.
Nice.
And bonus right near there is the Stagno Notary Lagoon. Keep an eye out for pink flamingos.
No way. Real flamingo.
Absolutely. Just waiting there. It's quite a sight as a splash of vibrant color.
Okay, South Sardinia sounds incredible. What about local tastes? Food? Wine?
Yes. Good question. So down south, you should definitely seek out the Carignano red wine.
Carignano.
What's really interesting is that the vines actually grow in sandy soil near the coast. Gives the wine a very particular character, you know.
Huh. Wine from sandy soil. Interesting.
It is. And if you prefer white, look for Nuregas. It's crisp, refreshing, a really lovely local white wine. A great introduction to Sardinian wine.
Perfect. Carignano and Nuregas. Noted. So that's the first 4 days covered. Where does the itinerary take us next?
Okay, so days 5 to 7 involve a journey. We're heading from the south, up the west coast, towards Alghero.
Alghero. Heard a lot about that city.
Yeah, it's special. But the drive itself is part of the experience. It's not just about getting from A to B. We've got some fantastic stops planned.
Like what?
First up, Bosa.
Bosa.
It's this incredibly picturesque town. Seriously, like something out of a storybook. Imagine colorful houses climbing up a hill right next to a river.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
It really is. Perfect place to just wander those cobbled streets, maybe grab a gelato, and definitely look up. There's the Malaspina Castle perched right above the town.
A castle, too?
Yep. You can visit it, get amazing views, learn about the history.
Yeah.
And I definitely recommend finding a spot for lunch overlooking the river in Bosa. Just soak it all in.
Sounds idyllic. Okay, Bosa. Then onwards towards Alghero.
Exactly. From Bosa, you continue the drive along the coast. Parts of it are called the Lungomare, really scenic. But before we actually hit Alghero City, there are a couple of really important historical sites nearby that are worth stopping for. These are key to understanding Sardinia's ancient past.
Okay, like what? Nuragic sites?
Precisely. First, there's Nuraghe Palmavera. It's a Nuragic settlement, one of the Bronze Age stone tower complexes unique to Sardinia.
Right, the Nuragas.
Yeah, and Palmavera is really well maintained. You can walk around, get a proper feel for how these ancient communities lived. It's fascinating.
Cool. And the second site?
That's the Necropoli di Alghero Sardegna. It's a prehistoric burial site, think thousands of years old.
Necropolis. So tombs.
Yeah, lots of them carved into the rock. They're called domesticanes, means fairy houses in Sardinian.
Fairy houses.
Yeah, that's the folklore. And look out for tomb. Specifically, it had these bullhorn carvings inside. Really symbolic, gives you a glimpse into their beliefs.
Wow. Palmavera and Alghero Sardegna. Deep history before even reaching Alghero.
Exactly. And after delving into the ancient past, maybe time for something a bit more contemporary.
Like wine.
You read my mind. Just near Alghero Sardegna is the Sella i Mosca winery. It's one of Sardinia's most famous.
Sella i Mosca.
It's a great place to stop. You can taste the local wines here in the Alghero area. You'll want to try Cannonau, maybe a different style than you'd find elsewhere, and also Torbado, a really interesting local white grape they revived.
Cannonau and Torbado.
Ade.
Do they do tours?
They do, yeah. Winery tours are available. It's a good chance to learn a bit about Sardinian winemaking if you're interested. This area is also known for Cagliari Red, by the way. Another one to look out for.
Cagliari. Okay, lots of wine notes. So after all that, we finally roll into Alghero itself. What's the vibe there? What shouldn't we miss?
Alghero. It's just got this wonderful atmosphere. The historical center is beautiful, very walkable. You'll want to see the main cathedral, the Cattedrale di Santa Maria. Also the Church of San Michele with its colorful tiled dome. And maybe San Francesco or Santa Barbara. And definitely wander through the little streets. You'll find loads of shops selling red coral jewelry.
Ah, coral. Alghero's famous for that, right?
It is. There's even a coral museum if you want to learn more about the history and craft.
Interesting.
But one of the absolute best things to do, especially towards the end of the day, walk along the Bastioni.
The Bastion.
Yeah, the old seawalls that surround the historic center, the views out over the Mediterranean at sunset. Just magical. Unforgettable.
Sounds perfect.
And listen out, too. Alghero has this unique Catalan connection from its history. You might actually hear people speaking a dialect of Catalan. It's fascinating.
Catalan in Italy. Wow. Okay, Alghero sounds amazing. So we spent days 5, 6, 7 getting there and settling in. What's next? Days 8, 9, 10. Staying around Alghero.
Yeah, we're using Alghero as a base for the next few days to explore the coast and nearby areas a bit more. There's still plenty to see.
Okay, like what? More natural beauty.
Definitely. High on the list should be Neptune's Caves, the Grotta di Nettuno.
Oh, I've heard of those. They sound dramatic.
They really are. Stunning stalactites and stalagmites inside. You've got two main ways to get there. You can take a boat trip from Alghero Port, which is lovely in itself, great coastal views. Or you can drive out to Capocaccia, this massive dramatic headland.
Capocaccia?
And then you descend the Scala del Cadirol. It's a staircase carved right into the cliff face. About 650 steps, I think.
Wow, 650 steps. Quite the entrance.
It is. But the views on the way down are spectacular, too. The caves themselves are part of the Porto Conti Regional Natural Park, so the whole area is protected and beautiful. Lots of hiking trails around there, too, if you fancy stretching your legs.
Good to know. So Neptune's Caves, Capocaccia, any other highlights near Alghero?
Well, Capocaccia itself is worth exploring, just for the sheer cliffs and views. And then there's Portoferro Beach.
Portoferro, how's that one?
It's described as being a bit more wild, maybe more rugged than some of the others. Big sandy bay, popular with surfers sometimes. A different vibe, you know. Less polished, more natural.
Sounds appealing. Now, the itinerary mentions an optional trip to Asinara Island.
Yes, Asinara. That's definitely an option for a day trip, but it requires a bit more planning.
Why is that?
Well, it used to be a prison island, actually, a high-security one for mafia bosses and terrorists at one point, and before that a quarantine station and WWI prison camp. So access is still restricted, controlled. It's a national park now.
A prison island turned national park? Intriguing. How do you get there?
You need to take a boat, usually from the town of Stintino, which is north of Alghero.
Stintino, okay.
And once you're on Assinar, you can't just roam freely everywhere. There are organized ways to see it, like guided Jeep excursions or a little tourist train, or you can rent bikes in certain areas.
What's the appeal, apart from the history?
It's got unique landscapes, very protected nature, and it's famous for its population of wild albino donkeys.
White donkeys. Cool.
Yeah. But speaking of Stintino, that's where you find La Pelosa Beach.
La Pelosa. I think I've seen pictures. Looks stunning.
It is stunning. Absolutely beautiful, shallow turquoise water with an old watchtower on an islet just offshore. The problem is
it gets crowded.
Extremely crowded.
Yeah.
Especially in summer, like towel to towel crowded. So beautiful, yes, but maybe mentally prepare for that or try to go off season if possible.
Good tip. Okay, so that's the Alghero area covered. We're moving into day 11 now. Where to next on our 25-day epic?
From Alghero, we're heading north, then east. Days 11 to 13 take us towards Palau, which is the gateway to the La Maddalena archipelago.
Ah, La Maddalena. That sounds like peak Sardinia beauty.
It really is something special. But again, the journey is part of it. The drive from Alghero across the north towards Palau is meant to be very scenic through different landscapes.
Okay. And once you're near Palau, any stops before the islands?
Definitely check out Capo Testa. It's just west of Santa Teresa Calura before Palau.
Capo Testa, what's there?
It's famous for these incredible granite rock formations. Huge boulders smoothed and sculpted by the wind and sea over millennia into really fantastical shapes. Great for scrambling around, hiking, taking photos. It feels almost prehistoric.
Sounds like a natural playground.
It kind of is. And then closer to Palau itself, there's La Fortezza di Monte Altura.
A fortress?
Yeah, a massive military fortress built in the late 1800s. It's quite imposing, built into the granite hillside. You can take guided tours, learn about its history, and get these amazing strategic views across the water towards Corsica.
Interesting piece of more recent history. Okay, so Capo Testa rocks, Monte Altura fortress, and then the main event, La Maddalena.
Exactly, the archipelago. This is really a highlight for many people. The best way, really, the only way to properly see the different islands and beaches is by boat tour from Palau.
Right, gotta get on the water.
Absolutely. These tours take you out into this incredible network of islands. Think crystal clear, genuinely emerald and turquoise water. Stunning pink granite cliffs. Pristine little coves and beaches.
Wow. Which islands do they usually visit?
Well, the main island is La Maddalena itself, which has a town. Then there's Caprera, connected by a bridge. But the boat tours usually focus on the more remote islands, like Budelli.
Budelli. Isn't that the one with the famous pink beach?
It is, Spiaggia though access to the actual beach is often restricted now to protect it, but you'll see it from the boat. Then there's Santa Maria, Spargi, Rizzoli, each with stunning bays and swimming spots.
It sounds like paradise.
It's pretty close. Soaking up that sun, swimming in that water. It's a core Sardinian experience for sure.
Okay, La Maddalena sounds unmissable. That takes us through day 13. Now, where does our journey lead for days 14 to 17?
We continue our journey down the east coast. From Palau, we're heading south towards Calagonon. This stretch is all about exploring the Gulf of Orosei.
The Gulf of Orosei, another legendary spot for beaches and cliffs, right?
Absolutely legendary. This is where you find some of those most iconic Sardinian calas, the coves. The drive itself, probably via Olbia, which is a major port town, brings you down to Calagonone, which is a lovely little seaside town nestled under mountains.
And from Calagonon, more boat trips.
Oh, trips are pretty much essential here, yes.
Yeah.
That's the easiest and best way to access most of these incredible beaches, as many are backed by steep cliffs.
Which ones are the must-sees? I've heard names like Cala Luna.
Cala Luna is definitely famous with its big caves at the back of the beach. Then there's Cala Cecine, Cala Biriola, the stunning Cala Mariolu, often voted one of the best.
Okay.
Cala Gabbiani next door, and the absolutely breathtaking Cala Goloritze.
Goloritze. That's the one with the rock spire, isn't it?
That's the one. A huge limestone pinnacle right by the beach. And the water is this intense turquoise. It's a national monument, actually. You used to be able to only hike there, but now boats can get close, though can't land directly on the beach anymore, I believe, to protect it.
Hiking is an option too, then, to some of them.
Yes. For the more adventurous and fit, there are hiking trails down to some of these coves, like Cala Luna and Cala Goloritze, but they can be quite challenging. long, steep trails. The boat is definitely easier for seeing several in a day.
Good to know. Boat it is, probably. What about other activities around Calagano besides beach hopping?
Well, if you're into serious hiking, there's the Golasu Gurupu Canyon nearby.
Oh, you mentioned that earlier, the deep one.
That's it. Reputedly one of the deepest canyons in Europe. Hiking into it is a real adventure, requires proper footwear and preparation. It's quite rugged terrain down in the base.
Sounds intense. Is there an easier way to experience it?
There's an alternative approach, starting from near Hotel Solana, up on the plateau. And sometimes there are options involving jeep transfers part of the way, which can make the trek into the canyon itself a bit shorter or more manageable. But it's still a proper hike, but spectacular. Those sheer limestone walls.
Maybe one for the serious trekkers then. What about the town of Orosei itself? Is that nearby?
Orosei town is a bit further south from Caliganone, also in the Gulf. It's mentioned in some travel accounts as a nice place, maybe a bit more traditional. One traveler mentioned meeting a helpful local expert there, which just shows, those serendipitous moments you can have.
Yeah, true. Okay, so the East Coast and Gulf of Orosei sound like a nature lover's dream. Where do we go for days 18 to 21? A change of pace.
Definitely change of pace. We're heading inland now, into the heart of Sardinia, the Barbagia region.
Barbagia. That sounds rugged.
It is. This is considered the real epicenter of traditional Sardinian culture. Mountainous, historically isolated. It's where the Sardinian language, Sardo, is often still the primary language spoken day to day.
Wow. So very different from the coast.
Very different. You'll find ancient traditions very much alive here, traditional recipes passed down for generations. It's a glimpse into a different side of the island.
What are some key places to visit in Barbagia?
Well, a visit to Orgosolo is usually recommended.
Orgosolo. Why is that?
It's a mountain town, famous for two things, really. Firstly, its murals. The buildings are covered in these amazing, often political murals depicting local history, global events, social struggles. They're really powerful.
Political murals. Interesting. And the second thing?
Historically, it had a reputation associated with banditry and resistance to outside authority. It's got this sort of independent, untamed spirit. It's much calmer now, of course, but that history is part of its identity.
Fascinating. What else represents Barbagia culture?
If you happen to be visiting in February, you absolutely have to try and see the carnival celebrations.
Oh, carnival like Venice?
Not at all like Venice.
Yeah.
This is something much older, more primal, almost pagan feeling. In villages like Mamoiada, Otana, or Otelli, you have these incredible processions.
Tell me more.
Especially in Mamoiada, you see the Mamatones figures dressed in black sheepskins, wearing these carved wooden masks and carrying heavy cowbells on their backs that clang rhythmically. And the Isoadors in brighter costumes who try to capture people with lassos. It's ancient, mesmerizing, totally unique.
Wow, that sounds intense. Mamatones, Isoadores.
It really is something else, a very deep-rooted tradition.
And speaking of deep roots and traditions, didn't you mention the centenarians earlier? Is this the region for that?
Well, one of the most studied Blue Zone villages, Villa Gran Sucoseli, is often considered part of the wider Ogliastra Barbagia area, yes. It has one of the world's highest concentrations of men living past 100.
Villa Gran Sucoseli, so you could potentially visit.
You certainly visit the village. It's become a focal point for researchers looking into longevity, the diet, the lifestyle, genetics, community ties. Visiting might offer some subtle insights, perhaps, just observing the pace of life.
A village of centenarians. Incredible. What about ancient history in the interior? More narajas?
Oh, absolutely. The interior's dotted with them. And sometimes they feel even more atmospheric because they're less visited than the coastal ones. So Nuraxi di Barumini is the big one. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a really complex village.
Nuraxi di Barumini, UNESCO site. Okay.
Then there are others like Santo Antine, often called the King of Nuragas, Nurage Arubiu, which is huge and reddish, Losa La Presione. Lots to explore if you're interested.
Seems like you could spend weeks just on the Nuragas.
You really could. And for the adventurous hikers again, there's Tiscali.
Tiscali, what's special about that?
It's the remains of a Nuragic village, but built inside a massive sinkhole cave on top of a mountain. You have to hike quite a way to reach it, but it's this hidden, almost secret, ancient settlement. Very evocative.
Wow, hidden in a cave. That sounds amazing.
It is. And just one more thing about Barbagia culture. You might hear mention of the Codus Barbaricino.
The Barbagian Code, what's that?
It's basically this unwritten code of honor, conduct, justice. Historically very important in these mountain communities. Govern things like disputes, hospitality, keeping your word. It adds another layer to understanding the region's psyche, its independence.
Fascinating. Barbagia sounds like a completely different world within Sardinia. Okay, so that takes us through day 21. We're nearing the end of our 25 days. What about the final stretch, days 22 to 25?
Right. The last few days offer a bit of flexibility. You've got a couple of main options, really, depending on your interest and maybe where you're flying out from.
Okay, option one.
Option one is to start heading back south towards Cagliari, perhaps, if you're flying from there. But you wouldn't just drive straight down. You could take a scenic road along the coast again.
Any recommended stops on that southern route?
Yeah, you could stop at Arbatax to see the famous Rocha Rosa, the red rocks. These incredible red porphyry cliffs jutting out into the sea, very striking.
Red rocks at Arbatax, got it.
And nearby, you could maybe climb the Torri di San Gimigliano for some final amazing coastal views. Just sort of soak in that last bit of Sardinian coastline.
Sounds like a nice way to wind down. What's option two?
Option two is basically more exploring. If you absolutely love the Gulf of Orsay or felt you didn't have enough time there, you could dedicate these last few days to exploring more coves, maybe doing one of those hikes you skipped earlier, or venturing a bit deeper into the Ogliastra region, which is the broader area south of the Gulf of Orsay, also known for dramatic landscapes and hiking.
So either a scenic return south or dive deeper into the east coast Ogliastra.
Exactly. It depends what captured your imagination most. And throughout the whole trip, it's worth remembering just how many hiking opportunities there are everywhere, from coastal paths to mountain trails.
Good point. And practically speaking, any final tips for getting around or planning?
Well, one really useful thing to know. Sardinia has no toll roads. Zero.
No tolls at all. That's great for a road trip.
Isn't it? Makes driving around much simpler and, well, cheaper. And in terms of getting to and from the island, you've got three main airports, Cagliari in the south, Olbia in the northeast, Alghero in the northwest, plus four major ferry ports, Cagliari, Olbia, Porto Torres in the northwest, and Golfo Aranci near Olbia. Plus Arbatax has some ferry connections too, so plenty of options for arrival and departure.
Okay, that's super helpful. No tolls, multiple airports and ports. Makes logistics seem quite manageable.
It generally is, yeah. Especially if you rent a car, which, as we said, is pretty highly recommended for exploring properly.
Right. Now, we've covered history, landscapes, culture, but we need to talk more about the food. You mentioned some specifics earlier, but let's do a proper foodie roundup for the whole island.
Yes, the food. Definitely a highlight. Okay, so island-wide, you absolutely must try pain carousel.
That's the thin, crispy bread.
That's the one, like music paper, carta musica.
Yeah.
It's addictive. You'll find it everywhere.
Okay, pain carousel. What else? Sweets.
For a traditional sweet treat, you have to try ciudas.
Ciudas. What are they?
They're these sort of large ravioli-like pastries filled with fresh cheese, usually pecorino, then deep-fried until golden.
Oh, wow.
And then, the crucial part, drizzled with warm honey, often local bitter honey like corbezzolo. The combination of the savory cheese, crispy pastry, and sweet, slightly bitter honey. It's just incredible.
Unique. Fried cheese pastry with honey. Sold. What about savory showstoppers?
The big one, especially for celebrations or traditional meals, is gorsidu.
The suckling pig.
The slow roasted suckling pig, yeah. Cooked for hours, often over an open fire or in special ovens, until the skin is incredibly crispy and the meat is just melt in your mouth tender. Often flavored simply with myrtle leaves. It's a real centerpiece dish.
Seems amazing. And being an island, seafood must be great too.
Oh, absolutely. Especially along the coasts, you'll find fantastic fresh seafood. Grilled fish, seafood pastas, botarga, the cured mullet roe we mentioned, often shaved over pasta. Loads of delicious options.
Yeah. What about cheese, besides the one in Saladas? Sardinia is known for pecorino, right?
Definitely. Pecorino Sardo comes in various ages, from fresh and mild to aged and sharp, stagionato. But then there's the other famous, or perhaps infamous, cheese.
Uh-oh, are we talking about
Queso marzu.
the maggot cheese?
That's the one. Traditional sheep milk cheese that contains live insect larvae. Its production and sale is, let's say, legally ambiguous now, but it's still a part of deep tradition for some. Definitely an acquired taste, and perhaps not for everyone.
Yeah, maybe I'll stick to the regular pecorino. What about just everyday food experiences?
Well, one lovely thing is that if you stay in smaller B&Bs or agriturismos, you often get these wonderful traditional homemade breakfasts included. Fresh ricotta, local jams, homemade cakes or biscuits. A really nice, authentic start to the day.
That sounds perfect. And we touched on wines, but let's just quickly recap the main ones again by region.
Sure. South, Carignano and Monaco Reds, Nuegas White. Northwest near Alghero, Cananao, Cagnolari Reds, Torpatarno, Vistorestano area, Udera Red, Venetia di Oristano White, great with Bortarga, Northeast Gallura, Vermentino di Gallura White, probably Sardinia's most famous white, and sweet wines like Malvasia di Bossa.
Okay, that's a great list. And I assume gelato is everywhere.
Of course. You're still in Italy, after all. Good gelato is readily available in towns, and pizza is popular too, naturally.
Phew. Okay, my taste buds are officially tingling. This whole 25-day plan sounds incredibly rich and diverse.
It really is. Sardinia offers such an amazing combination, doesn't it? Stunning beaches, yes, but also that deep ancient history, the unique culture you find inland, and then this fantastic food and wine scene.
Absolutely. So just to wrap up the practical side and maybe give that final nudge of inspiration, best times to go again?
Spring, say, March to May, and autumn, September to November. That's when you get milder weather, fewer crowds, and the landscape is often beautifully green or golden.
And summer.
Summer, July and August especially, is hot, and it's peak season, so beaches and popular spots will be busy and prices higher. But obviously that's when the sea is warmest. And February, remember, is carnival time in Barbagia.
Right. And rent a car.
Highly recommended, yes. For the freedom to explore, especially the interior and more remote beaches, ferries connect from mainland Italy, France, Corsica, Sicily. Easy enough to arrange.
Okay. And what's that overall feeling someone should expect? What's the takeaway vibe?
I think it's a sense of discovery. You might notice those silent landscapes inland, that feeling of space and quiet due to the lower population density in places.
Peaceful.
Maybe you'll be intrigued by the whole longevity thing, the centenarians, and wonder about their lifestyle. You'll encounter that unique cultural mix, the ancient Nuragic past, the Catalan echoes in Alghero, the strong traditions of Barbagia, maybe even whispers of that bandit history, or the Codis Barbaricino. It's layered.
It sounds truly captivating. Not just a beach holiday, but a real journey. This 25-day itinerary really brings it to life.
That's the hope, to show the incredible richness and diversity packed into this one Mediterranean island. It's a place that invites you to explore beyond the surface.
It really does. It feels like we've unveiled so much, yet there's probably still more beneath the surface.
Absolutely. Nature, history, culture, food, it's all interwoven in a really special way there. A place to experience firsthand.
Definitely. Okay, so on that note, maybe a final thought for our listeners to ponder. Considering Sardinia's really long, often independent history, and those deep-rooted traditions we've talked about, what other hidden cultural gems, what unique local perspectives or untold stories might you uncover if you venture just a little bit off the main tourist trails? Something to think about, perhaps, if you decide to embark on your own Sardinian exploration.
you.